It's safe to say, technology has become more than just a big part of our life. We are surrounded by it. Technology has had its progression spanning over decades, and this current generation will be the first to witness it. It seems like digitalization has become highly advantageous and will undoubtedly be one of the most revolutionary inventions of all time. But is positivity all there is to such type of technology?
Apparently, the Ebola virus is capable of reversing the effect of Alzheimer's. Wait,
Really?
In this film, we dig further down to see the positive and negative impacts that digitalization can have on identity and culture, as well as work in education. Since the beginning of year 2000, the early development of digitalization peaked over the horizon. A wave of questions are in need of answers. Even today, now that digitalization has taken an even bigger step, how does digitalization actually affect identity and culture? Digitalization has affected identity and culture throughout its beginning, both positively and negatively. And for that, gaming and social media are the examples that will be used. Starting off, we have the world of gaming, introduced during the early 1980s and has faced a massive development over the 4 decades.
Farewell, citizen.
Today, millions of gamers are gathering around every day to share their common interest for gaming, in which statistics from Statista.com show that there are over 3.2 billion in total around the world. These 3 billion gamers from around the world are different on every aspect when it comes to identity and culture. A study shows that these gamers come from all around the world with different cultural backgrounds. Together, these gamers meet up every day and get a taste of each other's identity and culture, which most commonly comes in form of language. A study performed by Vilnius University showed that 71 out of 96 students have said that video games assisted them in learning English. That is because English is a worldwide lingua franca, even in the world of gaming. Gamers are therefore heavily exposed to the English language, but often you will also run into any other languages. In terms of identity, video games offer a wide selection of character customization, allowing users to shape their own fictional identity however they wish within the world of gaming. You can change your appearance, abilities, and even the storyline. This gives gamers a chance to experiment on different identities, which they can use to discover themselves, finding out who they really are and what they truly wish to become. Gaming, however, is only one of several forms of digitalization that can affect identity and culture, as social media is another one as well. This highly progressive form of digitalization has had its peak from 2008 to 2018, where the amount of users created in the US had increased by 67% according to studies. Facebook has the highest amount of registered users, with up to 1.86 billion. With such an increase in people using social media, what effects will this have on identity and culture? The positive effects are the people you get to meet, in which you might share similar interests with, similar cultures, or maybe even create a digital culture on social media. That's because you can meet anyone on social media, people from many different cultures apart from your own. Whether they are people you would appreciate to be friends with, or if the unfortunate happens, stumbling across cyberbullying. Social media are often platforms with anonymous users with an unknown identity. Neither the bully nor the victim might know each other physically. This can happen in all forms of digitalized communication, even in the world of gaming. Cyberbullying can have shattering effects on one's identity, making the victims unsure and insecure about their own identity and who they are. For instance, selfies that get sent around and getting bullied for appearance. From a study of 6,000 people from the age of 10 to 18, dark numbers revealed that around 50% have experienced cyberbullying throughout their lifetime, and during the Corona lockdown, it increased to 70%. However, in terms of culture, social media can also negatively affect it. For instance, cultural imperialism, the dominant Western culture influencing different cultures around the world. This is heavily performed via social media, where millions of users from all around the world scroll down to see what social media has to offer, and for the most part, it's dominated by Western culture. Influencers, for instance, have a defining power over their followers on social media, and can therefore influence them with trends and cultures they choose to promote. However, the wealthy Western world is more economically beneficial for influencers to promote on social media, which can lead to the Western culture being more appreciated and represented in social media. This can cause poorer and less wealthy minority cultures to be underappreciated, and those who belong to those cultures can get the feeling of their culture not being represented enough in social media. To conclude, when different forms of digitalization, such as gaming and social media, were introduced, it opened up for millions of people from all around the world with various identities and cultures to meet and to communicate. It can be great to meet people with different cultural backgrounds and identities. Not only does it strengthen our knowledge about them, but we will also learn to understand one another. Although, it's something to be careful about. Users who utilize these forms of digitalized communication will meet millions of other users, thus increasing the chance for cyberbullying, which can badly affect one's identity and self-esteem.
Digital tools have become a big part of our lives. In education, digital tools are more present now than ever before. Students have to use digital services like Microsoft Word or other services to even make their work possible to do. Before, their given task would require a lot of manual labor and tedious work, but the presence of computers have made things much more optimized. Now we asked two people if they can notice the presence of digital platforms in education, one of whom is studying to become a teacher, and the other has already been through the Norwegian education system, though that is a long time ago.
My name is Frida. I'm 25 years old and I'm currently studying to become a teacher.
My name is Lars Roseng, and I work at the University at Bakkenteigen. And my background is a biochemist from the University of Oslo, and I have a PhD degree.
Yeah, they rely on digital tools very heavily. Like for example, all the communication goes by email or over Blackboard, which is our learning platform. Like you have It's Learning or something, I guess. And then we also get articles online. We have to submit projects and oppgaver, texts online. Yeah, so almost everything goes online.
Oh, when I was studying it, we didn't have digital tools. We didn't even have emails. We have faxes, and then we send a message between each other by faxing using phones. That was the old style.
Students can now do a lot more and harder work in a shorter amount of time. Not only this, but the ability to get information online is also a huge advantage, where they don't have to find experts or any other book that contain the necessary information, though this is still possible. The education system today is dependent on digital platforms to communicate with their students.
We're super dependent on them. I think it would be a crisis if it was to shut down today. I use digital tools every day. I use my computer every day to write on. I use my phone to read articles. Yeah, so I use them a lot.
Yeah, it's obligatory. It's a requirement for actually to start at higher education that you have your own PC and that you are able to actually come on these digital platforms. So it's obligatory. It's every student that will join higher education need a PC, and that's the rule. Otherwise, you will not enter into higher education.
2 Swedish studies show that digital competence is very distant in teaching programs, and this kind of competence is getting increasingly important as society is getting more digitalized. But it's more important than you might think. The current generation is the first generations to have been raised while surrounded by digital media, and so their environment is telling us that we need to teach this kind of skill. And in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Before then, digital services were as prevalent as discussed earlier, but during the pandemic, schools and companies and the entire world has been shown how much you can do online. Lectures have been online and a lot of work done by a company can be done online to save resources. So, in the future, as technology advances, digital services are definitely not going away. They're just going to be more important as we become more reliant on them. However, not everyone enjoys this kind of digital learning, and so the education system and any workplace should become more flexible to allow for people to do this kind of learning and do this kind of work.
The higher education at the university level should become more flexible. The students should choose to actually come to campus and have their education there, or if they can also sit at home into the district part of Norway. They don't have to leave from their homes and come into rural areas like cities. And that's the more flexibility that's lying ahead for the further development of digital platforms, I think.
Our culture is progressively changing with digitalization, and in the future, even more so. Teaching proper use of digital services in school will change future generations to the fullest, because then they will be able to find interests and friends and hobbies and their own identity, and they will do this by connecting with others and exposing themselves to a huge variety of culture. But this is also happening today, though now there is no one to stop people or limit people in meeting literally anyone or falling prey to anything, which could be troublesome if that anyone has bad intentions, or if these tools only act as a distraction in their lives. So instead of having a fear of people being manipulated up by others online and falling prey to misinformation, we should teach how to use it. This will prevent people to fall in dangerous situations and prevent these situations to even occur. For younger kids, digital services are becoming an environment that they grew up in, rather than a tool or service that they own. Therefore, we should give them the tools that they can use to find interest and to find friends, and to find themselves. But we should also control it to the extent that it does not consume them, and doing this is how we invest in the future.
As a summary for what I have talked about, digitalization has opened up the possibility to explore different identities and cultures, whether it's via gaming, social media, or any other forms of digitalized communication. The increased amount of people you can meet not only exposes you to diverse cultures, but it can also increase the risk for bullying. On social media platforms, a lot goes by unnoticed, performed by anonymous users. Some people even make specific users for the sole purpose to harass different users. This exposes us to more bullying and harassment than before digitalization, and it can have negative effects on one's identity and self-esteem. There are also other advantages, for instance, cultural imperialism. However, just that unique opportunity to explore cultural backgrounds is extraordinary, and while digitalization has its risks, cyberbullying can be controlled by, for instance, blocking the bullies. Now that we have taken such a big step towards digitalization, we can't turn back. The best approach is to embrace digitalization, enjoy its advantages, and overcome the disadvantages.
Digitalization is a tool that we should adopt in our everyday lives. It has made the way we live now completely different from any other period of our civilization. And if it's good or bad, well, that is very difficult to answer, because you need all kinds of perspectives. You need to think about how it affects social life. Does it contribute to crime? Does it help people? Does it make you get an education? Or is it in any way political? But also how it affects our planet. Are there only bad things, or are there good things too that might outweigh the bad ones? There are way more than these few, but covering them all is very difficult. The world keeps on changing, and the things that we need to keep track of to answer this question keeps changing with it. However, from the perspectives that stick out the most, that being the one we have covered today, digitalization seems to be a good thing. As any other revolutionary invention, it has its skeptics. But as we become more comfortable with these tools, we should learn to embrace it. And I think this one quote perfectly summarizes this entire project. Digital transformation is more about humans than technology.